You are now listening to the Yeshiva League Pass Tip-Off.
All right, it's episode number 2. I think it's number 2. Ari, is it? Because the first one was 0 or 1.
I don't know. You're the mathematician of the group, which is dangerous.
Is 2. This is 2, right?
2. Our first one with the guest, who's going to be coming on soon.
Is.
So,
and you probably know who it is because it's in the description or the title of this video. But right, I mean, it's suspenseful right now. Do you know?
It says what? Coach of the best team in the country.
I don't know if we actually worded it specifically that way. I think we'll put his name in. But before we do that and before we get to him, we have sponsors. You alluded to it last week. You alluded to it, and we have a bunch of sponsors to get to. We just want to hit them right at the top. Okay, so you guys know, who's making this, who's keeping us up all hours of the night. Now, this episode will release in the morning, but I can tell you it is after midnight right now, and it is all Ari's fault. And we're just going to leave it right there.
I don't take the blame for many things, but it's all on me. But in the world of podcasts, we don't sleep. This is what we do. So it's all
absolutely good. So first of all, we have to thank Holy Schnitzel. They are the presenting sponsor of this program. And Ari, I have waited many, many hours. Holy Schnitzel doesn't just sponsor this podcast and make it take the lid off, but they sent us dinner. Now
I'm so hungry I can eat it with the lid on.
To our guest who's sitting quietly waiting, just so you know, we were gonna get some for you too, but the snow and the COVID and anyway, it didn't happen. But look at some of this stuff. Look at this.
How delicious it is.
Do you know that there are brisket fries? That's a thing.
That's a new thing. I've never heard of that.
It didn't come in this fancy bowl. I made that happen.
But it looks very healthy. The brisket fries.
Yes, especially after midnight. Good. By the way, listen, this episode will be fine, but it's gonna be the hour after this episode that's gonna be a big.
That will be brought to you by someone else.
Yes. Look at this. This is like some popcorn something.
Popcorn chicken
of some kind. Yeah. It's like a honey glaze. This is fantastic. By the way, you and our guests are gonna have a great conversation.
That's good. I like to do the talking. You do the eating. You'll make up your stats and your playing day career and all that.
Have you seen brisket sliders?
No. By the way, what are you pulling out of there? Is that like a magic trick? You keep like pulling.
I got more.
You're gonna pull a bird out of your mouth?
Chicken fingers, a fairly standard staple, but they're good. I'm not gonna lie, I had some before already.
That is amazing. Look at that.
Of course, one of their signatures, the Holy Toasty. Can you see that?
By the way, is there a little Holy Schnitzel chef underneath you that keeps giving you this food?
Yeah, he's been waiting for you.
Where is this coming from? This is unbelievable.
So Holy Schnitzel, they're in Cedarhurst. If you don't know, is it?
They're they're not just in Cedarhurst. They're franchises all over.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
It makes sense. Best in the business. It snowed tonight. All right. In full transparency, it is February 19th. It snowed. You could look it up on your calendars. And
it's kind of all right. This was started on the 18th. Now it's the 19th. All right, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Wow, look at that. but yeah, they stayed open all night for us. Well, not for us, but for everybody else.
For their fans.
So we thank them. Check them out. You'll see me the whole. Anyway,
you'll see him eating. Go to Holy Schnitzel. Follow them on Instagram. Hit them up on Uber Eats. Everywhere you want.
Everywhere. Morton's another presenting sponsor of this show. And Ari, if you stay tuned for this entire episode, we're going to do an awesome giveaway at the end of this episode.
Oh, that's right.
Brought to you by Morton. So that's all I'm going to say. But for now,
stay awake.
For now, and tell us about your favorite, one of your favorite restaurants in the Five Towns.
Oh, Central Park. By the way, they were open tonight as well with all the snow. They were also delivering.
Unbelievable.
Best in the business. Maish is the nicest. He's one of the nicest owners in the neighborhood. Always willing to help out. If you're looking to do a simcha, they have a great outdoor dining room. Is it called an outdoor dining room? An outdoor eating area where they host sheva brachos. They host
it's not like
small weddings, bar
mitzvahs,
tip-offs at brisses. I mean everything. They do it all there. So
that was a nice plug for. That was good. Well played.
So Central Park. They're on. It's right off. Well, actually, not on Central Avenue. They're on Cedarhurst Avenue
at the corner of Central Avenue.
Right on the corner, and they have everything. Breakfast food, lunch food, dinner, at all hours, you could find something there. Great dairy
And of course, if you're a business looking to set up an outdoor area and you don't know the legalities of such things,
correct.
What do?
You call Adam B. Kaufman and Associates, because not only can he tell you all the things about law. He covers so many different things: litigation, real estate, wills, estates. You name it, he is the lawyer of the town, Adam B. Kaufman and Associates. So keep him in mind. He actually did my will.
Am I in your will, by the way?
You are in my will. Yeah, you get half the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, so we get to split this tahina right now. It's what it's worth.
That is, is that tahina, by the way? I don't know. I don't think
so.
it is. Is it?
That,
it would be.
That whitish
those cigars
substance.
you have? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
Right.
It usually goes with the Moroccan cigars.
And then our last sponsor, of course, is Ballers. Okay, moving on. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Ballers Basketball Academy. If you are looking at the end of the summer, I believe the dates are August 23rd to 26th. After
when it's snowing outside, I'm really thinking about the end of the summer.
Get your early bird specials in now. But look, Ballers Basketball Academy, a great for entering first to eighth grade basketball academy here in the Woodmere in 5 towns at Hafter. It's going to take place. Reach out to Ballers Basketball Academy.
I saw on the flyer it said something about NBA players.
Yes, there will be some NBA players.
Now,
absolutely.
Are those current NBA players? Are they retired? Are they active?
They're NBA players. Once you're part of the fraternity, like myself, you're always an NBA player.
What fraternity is that? Alpha, Beta, Sigma, Kappa, Lions? Then.
Yeah, correct.
Well, all right. I like how you get another free sponsor in by wearing it on your chest. Very well.
Oh, I didn't even realize I was wearing this shirt.
Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't.
Realize. Wow.
Listen,
ironic.
We're gonna stop. We're gonna shut up.
Yes.
We're gonna bring our guest in
so
right
much
here.
To talk about.
Ari, welcome to the podcast. The coach of the, I believe right now, he'll tell me if I'm wrong, the number 8 school.
Wrong. Elliot, Coach Steinmetz, I got that. I know you're, I think you're number 5 in the country right now. Is that correct?
Let's bring him in and find out. Here he is. I was right.
8. Oh, it is 8. Wow.
Ari, here, this is my shirt.
You know what? I'm forecasting for the week, and I'm thinking you're moving up a couple rankings after you beat whoever you play next. So that's just my point of view.
See, I follow Elliot on Instagram, and he posted it the other day, and I saw it, and I remembered. So
it's funny that we've gotten to the point where that's disappointing, but yeah, 8.
I think
should we refer to you as Elliot, Coach Steinmetz, or coach of the 31 in a row, 30 in a row, or 31 in a row? How many games have you won in a row?
31.
31.
Now,
31,
listen,
yeah.
I'm sure the ranking is only because at the time you'd only played 2 games, right? I mean, that's got to have something to do with it.
I'm hoping we'll be able to pull off a win on Sunday and find that out next week.
Ooh, who do you got
so
Sunday?
We'll see.
It never stops. I mean, this team is unbelievable. But Coach, we're going to go through your history.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. The show is tip off. Let's talk about your bris.
Right. By the way, you
have
until Shabbos, right? So we're good. We got some time here.
We're good. Yeah.
You got practice in what? 4 hours?
Practice in the morning.
I got to be up in a little less than 5 hours for practice.
Okay. Perfect.
Nice. So let's talk about your coaching, because we're going to get to the YU in that amazing story, but a lot of people kind of forget that you started off in the Yeshiva League, right? Besides being a player back in the day, I have seen some video. I have been on the opposing end of guarding you sometimes in these old men games, and it's still a very tough guard. So I know how good a ball player you were, but
you didn't play each other in high school, did you?
No. Elliot's like, even
Ari is much older than me.
He looks decent for his age.
No, he looks good. Elliot looks great. He's a coach. He's around youngsters all the time.
I was talking about you, Ari. I was talking about you.
Oh, me. Oh, I'm not used to the compliments, but thank you. So back to your Yeshiva League days. So you started your coaching career at the Hank Hurricanes. Is that where the first gig was before anything else?
Yeah, that was it. That was the first one. Right off of running basketball camp, I ended up there. I think I was probably 23, 24 years old, something like that.
Wow. Really young. I guess they really entrusted that program with you, or they had no one else to hire. But, you got to start somewhere. No, so that's where you were 23, 24 years old. And first of all, what made you get into coaching? Because, I mean, I know you were a great player back in the day at Rambam, right? Is that where you
Yeah, I don't know about great, but I was at Rambam. What got me into it? I mean, I always loved the game. And, at the time I was running a basketball camp with my brother and starting to kind of get into a little bit of the training. Did not think coaching was going to be for me. Hank actually approached me, asked me if I was interested. Initially, I kind of wasn't, and then decided I would give it a shot. That first year, I would say after that first year coaching, I was a little bit ready to give it up. And then actually,
wait, does that have to do with the record? What was the first?
No, we were pretty good. I wasn't really. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to teach guys.
You didn't go to coaching school. It's not like you got your master's in it yet.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did. I called Daniel Gibber up, and who had been doing it already for probably 10 years in the Yeshiva League, and I asked him to sit with me and have dinner and kind of talk it through. And I ended up going over to, I think he was living in the Upper West Side at the time, or East Side, I don't remember, somewhere in the city. And I spent about 2 hours going through film with him, and he sent me home with a bunch of coaching videos. And once I started to kind of study it and learn it, I got really into it, and I started to really enjoy the kind of the competitive aspect and really just learning the ins and outs of the game.
Now, Ari, we've already discussed this, Ari. There's only one person with a master's degree in sports on this.
Yeah, by the way,
podcast, and it's me. Okay?
Right, that's true. You're at New York Institutional Technology, wherever the school.
NYU, right? I know it's very hard to remember the 3 letters.
But you can get a lot of degrees online these days, and you don't even.
True.
You don't
that
need
was
to
not
show
one
paper,
of them, though.
That's not.
But not from NYU.
Right. That's true.
Now, Elliot.
Wait. So I'm sorry. Wait, Jay. You actually there was video back in the day when you were looking at. You said you were looking at video.
Tom Umansky for basketball.
That's impressive. All right. I'm sorry, Jay. Go ahead. I kind of interrupted you there.
You did. You always.
You were
do.
eating anyway.
What else is new? Now, Elliot, I think it's important to get into this. For those that don't know, coaching is not your full-time gig.
It is not my full-time gig. I'm an attorney.
So, and we'll get into this more as we get into the YU days. Certainly not that big a deal to take on a high school, coaching job, or is it?
Right.
How did you balance that in the beginning? Was that hard? Was that part of your reasoning to stay, to go? You got kids. I mean, how did that all work?
So yeah, it's not easy for sure. It was, I kind of like the way it is. It was always, this kind of passion that I had in terms of the basketball stuff and coaching and being around the guys and just kind of being involved in competition. And I think the ability to be able to do it at the high school level while it was after work, it kind of gave me something to look forward to. It let off steam, rather than getting myself in trouble. But it was always kind of just like a good hobby to have on the side. And, I guess as it grew, I got a lot more serious about it. When I moved on from Hank to North Shore, it was actually almost kind of
hold on, coach.
Oh, am I skipping too far ahead?
Yeah, you can't just hold on. You can't just no. Normally no, but you can't just move on from Hank to North Shore without talking about. Didn't you win a championship at Hank?
Yeah, we did.
Right. So tell us about that. How you went from, because I know you want to go. We got practice and everything, but you won a championship.
I'm good. I it's Friday, man. I'll sleep all day tomorrow, all night tomorrow night, and all day Saturday.
Well, Jay and I like to talk, so that's
listen.
perfect.
How many years did it take to get that first chip?
At Hank, I think we won. I think it was my 4th season there, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not bad.
I think we had gone undefeated in my 3rd season and then lost in the championship. It was actually the same year the Patriots did it. We went undefeated and lost.
You played Eli Manning?
07, 08?
I think that's right, actually. Yeah, something like that. No, I think you're about right. Yeah, and then the following year we ended up winning.
Now,
that's pretty good for a mid-major.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you'd call Hank, right? In the Yeshiva world. I'm just making it up, but
I think they probably were a mid-major.
It's not Frisch, right? It's not.
I think it's one of the smaller schools. I think that's a kind of a fair characterization. Yeah. It was also the first championship, I think, in the school's history, which was cool to be part of.
I always want that first one.
By the way, I have to give you a little behind the scenes. I've been at the Hank Gymnasium with Coach Steinmetz. He's treated like royalty when he gets there. It's like they roll out the red carpet and they just give him all the treatment of a superstar. But I do know the first thing that Coach Steinmetz does when he walks in, he looks at his head and he looks right into the trophy that's sitting in the trophy shape in the trophy case, and he remembers that's where it all started from. I mean, winning a championship at any level is so many different factors. So you did that. You won your championship at Hank, which is probably the pinnacle of Yeshiva League basketball. And then you went, how many years later did you go and start at North Shore?
I coached one more season after the championship. So it was 2 years later that I ended up at North Shore. I had a year break in between that I was just kind of focused on.
So you got to meet your wife that year and everything, and reacquaint yourself.
I actually did Maccabea that year. I think I went to Australia.
Oh, he's talking about a break, and he went to Australia or okay.
Never a break.
Coach.
It's never a break.
Unbelievable.
I'm just gonna say, whoever decided to put brisket and whatever this sauce is on
fries,
I
keep looking at that one. That's the only one that I actually kind of want to sit here and try.
tremendous. It,
Yeah,
like
As I said, it looked very interesting.
sitting around the fryer one day. It's like, you know what? Let's put brisket on here. Brilliant.
You could try anything, and us Jews, what we like to eat. So
Yeah.
if something hits, we'll accept it.
Ari, I'm sure you have a relevant question about North Shore now.
Yes. So North Shore. So you go to North Shore, which is probably a larger school, but I don't know. Like you kind of brought that program to where it is
probably.
now.
It probably is. Yeah.
Well, it's a larger school, but I'm saying athletically, their athletic teams, they're known for great education, a great school, a great principal, and a great administration. So, as far as, when you think now North Shore is one of the big dogs, but I don't think it was that the case when you came aboard.
I mean, they hadn't won when I got in there, but they were also somewhat of a new school in terms of the high school world. I don't know the amount of years they were around before I got there, but it's certainly less than the Hafters, the Frishes, the Ramazes, and all the so to speak big dogs.
Right.
I think anytime you start somewhere new, especially even if it's a bigger school, if they're new athletically, there's always kind of a lack of confidence. And you guys both played sports. You know what it's like when you, especially
I played sport. I mean, Jay. Yeah, okay, we're going to go with
Jay has watched sports.
Yeah,
Ari, I was part of
the
the first championship program at TABC.
Their chess team was unbelievable.
No. First hockey championship, #1, right here.
No, we're talking about sports.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I also played 12 seconds in that game, but it doesn't matter.
That's
it's like I remember when I went to Rambam, we used to when you were getting ready for a game, if you were playing Hafter or Ramaz, the name on the front of the jersey kind of intimidated you a little bit just because they had been around, because maybe you had won championships, maybe you knew a lot of the guys in that school. And I think kind of, when I went to Hank and a little bit at North Shore also, that was kind of the attitude that existed a little bit was, hey, we could be really good when we're playing these schools, but when we play those schools, it's going to be, it's going to be an upset if we win.
Right. So you had
that was a little bit of the mentality I wanted to change.
Right. You had to change the culture of the school because it's like you said, myself, I went to JEC. It was the same mentality. You okay, we're going to play MTA back in the day and we're going to play Frisch. And it's like, you going with that almost like defeating attitude that, how are you going to be able to beat them? And you have to change that. And, these kids, they got their tip off just like everyone else. Like they can play, they can lace them up, and they can beat them. What?
That was a tip off. He comes up with one good idea, and he's going to punt it
until
it dies. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, we're done with that one. But no, so you had to change that mentality.
Listen, at TABC, when I played at TABC, it was the exact opposite, right? Like we were expected at the time. We did win a championship my sophomore year, and then junior and senior year, you were just expected to be good. And when you went into a school, the mentality was always we could win every game. And it was almost a disappointment to lose a game.
That brings the interesting question, Coach. Would you rather be the favorite or the underdog? I think I know the answer you're going to say, but the favorite, knowing you have the best team, that you on paper have the best team, you should win a championship or at least compete for it. Or would you rather be that middle of the road? You don't know what's going to be. It's really up to the players and coach.
I always want to be the favorite.
Okay. So I didn't know you were going to go there.
I agree with you, and I know that Ari thought you were going to say the other thing.
Yeah, I thought he was going to give us a little coach talk that I wanted to.
I'm not one of those give me nothing to lose and no pressure. Give me the best players you can, the best team you can give me. Tell me all the pressure's on. Pressure's a privilege. I'll take pressure any day of the week.
So that means that's why if you go to YU and you play for the Maccabees right now, you have to be 6'6" and taller. Is that part of the?
I don't know about that. I don't think all our guys are there, but you got to be pretty damn good, right? For sure.
No, that's without a doubt. So you go to North Shore, and then you won a championship at North Shore as well. So 2 championships, which I mean, off the top of my head, I know a lot of Yeshiva League history. There can't be many coaches who've won 2 championships. First of all, 2 championships in general, and let alone at 2 different schools. So how was that transition?
I bet you there are a lot of guys who've won 2 championships, 2 different schools. I don't know.
I don't know, Coach. Is there? Do you think there's a lot of people who've won 2 championships?
I don't know. I imagine there probably are a few. I don't. The 2 school question, I don't know, and I'm not sure what's more impressive, to do it at the same school, to do it at 2 different schools. But I think any time you get an opportunity to compete for a championship, it's obviously an honor and just something you don't want to kind of let get away.
All right. So to put you on the spot again, if you had it, and this is. I mean, we'll hear your answer.
I know the question and the answer, but
you had to rate the championships. The North Shore championship with the Hank, the first championship, the little engine that could, or the North Shore Championship. I know you had a tremendous team with one of our favorite players, Cody Cohen, was I think only a junior when he won a championship with you. So to have those two championships, how do you put them side by side?
It's hard to. I mean, I don't know. Any normal person, obviously, the answer is going to be, "Oh, we don't compare them. They're all great, right?"
Yeah, but we didn't bring him on for normalcy.
I know. We're getting there. But I remember they were asking Tom Brady after the Super Bowl, where does it rate? You know, seven. What is the seventh Super Bowl now?
Yeah.
Where does it rate amongst the other ones? Like, who cares? I got 7 rings.
Right. It's true.
It's hard. I mean, and I know we're not up to YU yet, but I get asked already about comparing the 2 different championship teams there, and I get asked about the 2 different Maccabi gold medals, you know, with the Israel and Australia, and then I get asked about the Hank and the North Shore thing a lot. I'll tell you, it's interesting. The Hank one was obviously my first. What was interesting about the Hank one and different was, I mean, both teams had great players, obviously, but we had, you know, Benji Ritholtz was an absolute superstar, and we kind of like rode his coattails to that championship. He got hot as a junior that year in the playoffs, and we just kind of jumped on board, and he carried us, you know, through the end. And obviously we had really good players around him. But that was a kind of still a learning experience for me in terms of coaching. I mean, I still think every day kind of is. The North Shore one, that team, from the day we walked into the gym in September when school started, had decided that practice 3 days a week wasn't enough. They were going to work out on their own, you know, as a team, or at least, you know, certainly, you know, the top 5 or 8 guys. They had made the goal that they weren't going to lose a single game in the league that year. We had really great senior leadership, and obviously Cody as a junior was a superstar. That was just a special group to be around, and just to kind of, you know, watch the way they approached practice every night for high school kids.
Right. It seems like some amazing dedication. I mean, right, being high school kids, we have our own high school kids. You get away from the video games.
You know, Cody was great, but the other Cohen on that team, Josh, was one of the best leaders that I've ever.
Number 11, just to show my knowledge.
You really have problems.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I do have problems. He was number 11, wasn't he?
Just say yes so we could confirm that Ari has problems.
I think he was.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know the numbers of my players today, but yes, he was 11.
Coach. So wait, so it sounds like the North Shore was, I guess, in thinking in your coach's head here. So you said the Benji Ritholtz was the one-man show, like you said, like the Carmelo Anthony of Syracuse, where it was just one superstar, and you had other players obviously who were good and complement his game, but North Shore was like that team concept where they put it all together, and it was 5 guys with obviously a superstar or 2, but it was really a team effort that really propelled you to that championship.
Yeah, and I probably as a coach felt like I had a little more of an impact on that North Shore team than I did, you know, in the Hank days, when I feel like they were probably winning, you know, despite the coach sitting on the bench who didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
So
by the way,
North Shore, I felt like I maybe was starting to add a little value.
Right. So that was also you would probably, I mean, you were more experienced at that point also. So you had, you know, I'm sure your coaching, like a game evolves, your coaching, you know, playbook evolved, and, you know, the way you run practices and everything you do to put your team in position to, you know, be at its best.
Yeah, 100% true. And I think that's the case kind of every year. You get a little bit better. And, you know, if you're lucky enough and you get to the point where you're recruiting, and if you get good at recruiting, you don't have to be as good at coaching.
Right. Well, which recruiting? So now as we get to, we're moving our way up. And by the way, you would think we had questions, you know, talked about prior. We did. The only thing prior we had talked about is Elliot. I'm sorry. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'll be there in 5 minutes.
And the menu.
Right, exactly. So,
which none of that menu ended up in my house.
Right. Well, that was Jay's fault. I told him to drop it off.
Ari's fault.
Right. All right. Whatever.
So hold on. So how long were you at North Shore?
I was there 3 years.
3 years. All right. So I know we're about to get into YU, but before we get there, if YU doesn't happen, are you still coaching high school basketball?
Hell yeah, of course.
You still have the passion.
If YU went away tomorrow, I'd be coaching high school basketball. I
really?
High school basketball.
It's called Oak Hill Academy or Montverde. That's where he'd probably be.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
So wait,
right, so this is so now we get into the big moment. This is the big moment. It's, you know, for a coach of Jewish basketball, it's you know, it's getting the Knicks head coaching job, right? It's like there's nothing, you know, and maybe you still want to get the Knicks head coaching job or to coach at Duke when Krzyzewski's done. I don't know.
Why would he want to downgrade?
I don't know.
What's the guy's name who just got fired from the Knicks like 2 years ago? Fizdale, right?
Oh, Fizdale,
Yeah.
David.
That's my dream job right there. I think he's still getting paid.
Yeah.
I want to get fired from being the Knicks coach. That's what I want.
Right. That's you know what?
That's
There's a
what I
long
think
list
about.
of people who are probably still being paid by the Knicks.
Doesn't Isaiah
organization.
Thomas still collect money over there?
Of course.
Probably.
He also
Bobby,
cost them money too.
And Bobby
all the
Bonilla
harassments.
too.
Right. That's true. So wait, actually getting to the YU thing, I actually remember it was, Coach Halpert, right? He was there for like 30 years or so, which is, I think the court 40 years. The court is Halpert Court. I mean, it's tradition that he was there for so long, and he had a great run and great teams. And then I kind of remember, obviously he was retiring, and then there was like this whole. I remember reading this. It's kind of back in the day. There was this whole like search firm put out to get their next coach. I mean, this wasn't just it's YU basketball. They obviously, the administration saw they wanted to take it to the next level. They really wanted to get the best of the best. And, to be chosen, I mean, how old were you when you were named coach of Yeshiva University?
I guess probably 33 or 34.
Wow. I mean, that's not an old man to start coaching at such a prestigious place. So that's got to be humbling to have that opportunity to be able to coach, Yeshiva University basketball. As like Jay said, it's like the pinnacle, right? I mean, you can coach at all the great, yeshivas and all that, but
to French fries and this is the pinnacle of French fries. That is the pinnacle of coaching.
Thank you for those words. So yes, so tell us, were you when you put your name into the YU in the put your resume in, were you like expecting to get the job? Were you like, you know what?
And did they contact you first, or did you contact them? Like, how did it work? How did the whole thing go down?
So it was actually neither one. It was interesting. I had heard the job had opened up because they had posted it, obviously, and I initially did not apply. I wasn't really interested. The job at North Shore was a really, really good one. I enjoyed it, and it was also tied.
Well,
to
the home and the car
job.
they provided was very, very nice. Also,
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're joking, except that it was kind of tied to my full-time job.
Oh, okay.
I was working as a lawyer for the company that's owned by the founder of North Shore. So
okay. So this is a big decision then.
It was kind of like I was going to be giving up way more than just time and coaching at North Shore. I was basically going to be.
You were jumping into the deep end. You were like,
I was putting myself in a position where I was going to have to find a new career.
Right. Wow. This is unbelievable.
So it was not something I was really willing to do at first. And then I actually got a call from a couple of YU alum who had played before my time, older guys who convinced me to put my name in, which I did. And, I guess I found out afterwards they had hundreds of resumes that were put in. And
I never heard back from them, by the way. Still haven't heard back.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't. Mine somehow made it through that first round. I think the second round was kind of like a phone interview, and then they went on campus. The phone interview was terrible. I just bombed it. It's just not.
Was that with the AD?
It was with a whole committee. So it was like this huge conference call. They have a whole search committee of.
This is before the Zoom days. You actually
it was before Zoom. So it was like 10 or 12 people on a conference call, and I'm sitting, huddled up in my office at work, trying not to have anybody hear me having that conversation, because everybody there knows I coach North Shore. So I'm kind of like half quiet on the phone and not like no energy.
Right. They're like, we need a little energy from you, coach. I mean.
So it did not go well, and I guess there were a couple of people on that committee who at least knew me pretty well and vouched for me to at least get.
By the way, the people in those committee have probably gotten raises in the committee. How the committee goes, they're probably like, yeah, we made a good recommendation there. That's a good pat on our back to suggest Coach Steinmetz for that gig. So you get this job.
I don't know. Who knows? If they would have picked somebody else, they might have won 3 national championships by now. You never know.
Oh, Coach, stop it! Don't be so humble. But okay, so you get this opportunity, and first of all, how does that work with so you got to tell your family? I mean, obviously they're part of the decision, but you're saying like you're taking a career, in which you had, I'm sure a very nice career, nice gig, and you're taking a kind of a blind leap, right? You're going into something where YU basketball. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, most people aren't as knowledgeable in Yeshiva basketball as myself. No one was really following YU basketball back then, except maybe a couple alumni. I mean, I don't think it was like this must-see event that it is now. So.
And you.
Right. So you go into this.
Yeah, it was not, it wasn't, and it was kind of that was kind of the idea. It was something that I wanted to change. It was,
challenge.
I remember the first phone call I got afterwards was from a coaching friend of mine from the Yeshiva League world. Says to me, he's like, I don't understand. You're winning at Hank. You win at North Shore. You have a winning record every year. You're in the semifinals every year. You're probably going to win more championships. Why are you going somewhere where the goal is mediocrity?
Right. That's true.
I said, well, my goal is not mediocrity. I went, as soon as I got the job, I went and pulled all the game films from the last 2 years. And I watched every game that YU played the last couple of years. And I just, in my head, was trying to say to myself, hey, we can compete with that team. We can compete with that team. Now, I'm a cocky bastard, so like I sometimes.
Hold on, wait, but you need the bleep button. He said the B word.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah,
We'll let it go.
I tend to. I like to walk into a season, and I have a lot of faith in the guys that I have on my team. So I generally will always think.
Thanks, Ryan Terrell. Yeah, it's helpful.
It becomes easier when you have guys like that, obviously.
Right.
But even in the beginning, that first year, I remember walking into games and saying, "Hey, we're going to compete with all these teams." And, it was really about changing a mentality and changing kind of the attitude. And you see it in the fan base more than anything else. It's very
100%.
Obviously those first couple of years, there's like nobody, there's like 15 people in the gym and 10 of them are parents. And, the rest of the parents don't even want to bother coming.
Right.
And
they live down the block.
By the way, I went to Rutgers. And that's what those games looked like too. When I was at Rutgers, I mean, they also had about 15 people.
Rutgers has a tough spot over there in the Big Ten. So,
yeah. Wait. So let me ask you a question, because
they weren't in the Big Ten then.
That's true. I remember speaking to you back in the day when about this, and you said something to me, and I remember it still to this day. You said, yeah, when you had just gotten the job, and I remember saying, congratulations, that's awesome, good for you. And you said something about, and I'm like, good luck. And you're like, you said something to me which I never even thought about with YU basketball. You said, now I got to go recruit. And it's like, I think that has really, you changed that program from, okay, this was a great player at MTA. He was a good player at Ramaz. He was a decent player at Hank. They're probably going to be YU if they want to play, because it's a lot of commitment, and not everyone really, to put on the Yeshiva University jersey wasn't like the what it is right now. So you had to go and you recruited. All of a sudden you were taking kids from California, from Florida, Texas, Israel. I mean, tell us about how, I guess that was part of your mentality about how you were going to change the culture and really elevate the program.
Yeah, it was. When I went on campus for an interview, it was one of the things I talked about. And I came in with the whole booklet. It was super impressive. I printed it out at like Walgreens or something.
After the phone interview, you had to,
I had to really step up.
He went to Kinko's. He's like, just give me a folder. There's nothing in this folder.
Like, can you just laminate these pages?
There was nothing in it. Right? Have you put a little laminating on it? Oh, you're.
I sprung for the colored printing on the front, and
and then black and white. You couldn't get crazy.
It was Kinko's and Dunkin' Donuts at the same time, so you had a coffee. It was perfect.
Right. So, but I remember one of the things I presented was my recruiting plan, and I kind of had, and I gave examples of players that had been playing the year before or 2 years before in high schools that either were at Yeshiva or did not even get recruited by Yeshiva, or weren't, or obviously chose not to go to Yeshiva. And I had different levels. And, I remember, for example, one of them, the top level guy that I mentioned was a kid named Spencer Weiss. Spencer had played for me at Maccabi in Israel. He was a 4-year starter at Princeton. He was rookie of the year in the Ivy League. He was player of the year in the Ivy League. So
you weren't shooting for the 12th man on the bench at Princeton. You were
no. So, but here's the thing, but I was realistic about it. I mean, Spencer Weiss wasn't going to Yeshiva. Like he was. Well,
Princeton's a pretty good academic school, also. So
pretty good school, obviously, and it's Division I. And we're not talking about a kid from from necessarily a background that would be familiar with Yeshiva University. But my point was, he needs to get a letter and a phone call. Like, he needs to know that we exist, and he needs to have to say no to me.
So you kind of brought a business mentality to coaching. I mean, that's what it sounds like when you're going for the sale, right? Like us, we're getting sponsors, right? We got Holy Schnitzel, but if McDonald's called us, I mean, they're not kosher, but you might as well go for the big dog and really, you pick up that program, or that, that's kind of a business mentality that you're talking about.
Well, the way I looked at it is, if you ever land a kid like that, it's a home run. It's and to me, it's a 1 in 1,000 shot. And if you go a level down, then maybe it's a 1 in 100 shot, but it's still a program changer. And if you go a level down from that, you're all of a sudden talking about 1 in 10, and you might have some really good players. And then you're starting to go into the level of guys where, guys who are in our world that are going to Jewish day schools and yeshivas that are aware of YU. Maybe they've been to Sarachek, maybe they've been there on a tour, or they've been there to visit friends. And those are guys that, in my mind, we couldn't lose. We had to get those guys, and it didn't matter how good
5
they
years
were.
ago, you weren't getting a Ryan. I mean, Gabe Leifer, you probably could get because he went to DRS. He's a local guy,
maybe.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But like a Ryan Terrell or Ofek Reeve, like guys like that who just really are different caliber.
Yeah, and it's funny we talk. You know, Tamir Goodman's going to be on this show. I mean, that's somebody in that day. There wouldn't even be a shot. You know, a shot in that he would come play for Yeshiva, like, and he's obviously now. I mean, he's extremely religious, right? Like,
he was always Orthodox, always very religious family.
So, but like to think that at that time that he would have gone to Yeshiva would have been a joke. I mean, it would have been a disappointment for that player to end up playing, you know, collegiately at Yeshiva University at that time.
Right, you would have went into that house against Dean Smith, you know, against Mike Krzyzewski, and you would have said, you know what, I'm going to try to get Tamir. He's a top 25 recruit in the country, and you know what, I at least got to sell him on the opportunity to represent the Jewish people and come play for YU.
And I would have gotten him.
Yeah, you would have gotten him. By the way, we're going to tell Tamir that.
Aren't you guys? You guys are like you guys are basically the same age, no?
He's 2 years younger than me. Yeah, we're good friends though. We talk every so often.
Yeah, and Ari, don't get it twisted. By the way, you know, listen, athletes in college, and we'll just leave it at what it is because we have an NCAA coach here. So athletes don't get paid. Okay, the athletes are choosing where they want to go for a variety of reasons. You know, maybe it's the stepping stone to the NBA, their best thing. They want to win a championship, whatever. The recruiting part of it, that is big business. You know, that is absolutely. You know, these schools have budgets. How much are they right? How much money do they spend on coaches flying all over the country? Of course, now I'm sure it's probably predominantly done in Zoom, like you said earlier. But, you know, the recruiting part is business. I mean, that's how you build a team. The fact that the players aren't getting paid.
You're absolutely right. Like, think about that element, and kind of this is just what you said, and on point was what Jay's saying. You helped the business of YU because you said when you're walking in, when you started this gig, there's 20, I mean, I don't know numbers. There's a minimal amount of people coming to the games, supporting the student, wearing the gear. You know, all of a sudden now you've made this a must-see event on campus. So you've taken the ruach, the spirit of the school, and you've elevated it. And then also from the business perspective, you're selling more merchandise. I assume they probably have a nominal fee for the gym for fans to come in, maybe not students, but for outside parents or whatever it is. So you're really bringing this, and the notoriety that you're bringing to the team is, you know, the program has really all come together in one thing.
For whatever it's worth, Ari.
Yes.
For whatever it's worth, sports drives things in this world. Okay. The fact that Duke has been good at basketball for the last 50 years, whatever it is.
Not this year, though.
Well, but that matters. You know, that elevates the school. Listen, you don't have to tell, you know, a from parent from Teaneck or from the Five Towns or from Elizabeth, you know, your hometown.
Or from Riverdale, or from Deal, Brooklyn. We'll hit them all.
Right. You don't have to tell a parent from that area that there's this school in Manhattan, in Washington Heights, that caters to religious kids with giving you a Torah environment and Torah learning in college. You know, they know.
Yeah, right, for sure.
But there are plenty of schools like YU, not necessarily religiously affiliated, all over the country that you and I have never heard of. Yet maybe locally, you know, that school's success in athletics matters. Maybe there's a great girls lacrosse program up in Quinnipiac, you know, and that matters and that resonates and that gets out. And that's what's happening right now. It's a renaissance at Yeshiva because now, you know, it's not a laughing stock.
Right. It's must see TV, which brings us to the next level. So you bring these recruits in. I mean, these players, and you're elevating the level of competition. It's not, you know, it's not a walk-on. It's not like like we said, the Yeshiva League All-Star. It's really another caliber type of athlete and player. So you put this team together, and you start with, you know, elevating the program. So what was the first time that you realized, you said, you know what, we got something special here with YU. Like this is, you know, I can see my dreams, and, you know, it's actually going towards that point.
I think it really was that first year. I mean, we didn't necessarily have the players for it right away, but it was kind of walking into the to that first year and maybe even winning that first game against the team that you had never beaten before, down in DC, and just saying like our guys compete, like they maybe we're not there yet in terms of our talent level or the athleticism, but our guys are smart, they play smart, they compete, and the greatest thing about coaching at Yeshiva, they're great kids, so they're selfless. They're so focused on winning and on making each other better, and kind of like having that family atmosphere and that environment. It's different than any other, certainly Division III school, but even Division I and II, you don't have that kind of there's something special and different about the school and the environment. And the other part of it, I always tell people, when you go play a Division III school, when you're doing scouting, right? When we're sitting down and we're watching film on another team, every guy has got some sort of a flaw that's easy to find. And you know why they have an easy flaw to find? Because that kid wanted to go Division I and didn't, right? Every kid that we're playing against, they're not at their first choice of where they wanted to go athletically. All those kids wanted to go D1. You come to us, I got a kid who had 19 scholarship offers out of high school to play Division I basketball, and we were his first choice.
That's
Finds
crazy.
his flaws, and everybody's got him, but he's got less than everybody else.
Right. That's unbelievable. Also, like on the point you were talking about, one thing you also see, and I'm going to, I obviously it's a testament to the kids, and internally they must have it, but I think, it's probably from you and your coaching staff as well. Like, you can see them, they really represent Jews. Like a kid on the other team goes down, they're helping them up with their hand. They're just like, they're carrying themselves. And I again, I don't know this, you haven't told me this. It's just a sense I get from watching that you've either put it in their heads that they're representing the Jewish world, especially now that the spotlight has really been shined on them with the winning streak, with the tournament. We'll get into all that. So, that's something to see. Like, you watch that these guys are helping each other up. They're patting each other in the back, like good play. It's actually something that, as a fan you see. And I think that's a testament to you and your program. That's probably, something you guys have put into play.
Take the credit. How much of that is you?
We do talk about it before. Look, these kids are coming from great families, obviously, and they have great backgrounds, and a lot of them are coming from really good schools where they've learned a lot of good things. But we do talk about it before every season, and in particular, we talk about competing hard. We talk about knocking guys down, but we also talk about you knock them down, you pick them back up.
Right, because I mean, think about it. Most of these teams, they see the yeshiva on their chest. They're not kids that they've played against in high school for most part, right? These other schools, like you said, like some of these kids have in Division III have dreams of playing in Division I, and I'm sure they could play in Division II. And they're at this school for whatever reason, if they didn't make that team or that school that didn't recruit them, but they're looking at across the table, across the court, and they're like, athletically, I'm probably just stronger. I can jump higher. So like, that's something that they probably don't even understand the caliber of athlete that you have, at Yeshiva University. I mean, it used to be, and I was telling this to someone earlier today. I said, it used to be if you could make a left-handed layup, you could probably make the YU team. Now if you're not dunking, like, I mean, if you're not dunking, you're hitting 80-foot 3-pointers, right? I mean, your player is doing one or the other. It's not like that's the type of player you have. I mean, it's unbelievable to see. I mean, so tell us about the biggest recruit you ever got. And I mean, I think we all may know, but who would that be? And how did you go about, really seal him and get him to your program?
You actually don't know. You think it's Ryan, and you think it's that simple. Ryan's obviously, probably going to go down as the best player in the school's history. And then because of that, obviously he'll end up being what you would consider to be the best recruit. But it's kind of what led to that. I don't know that we get Ryan if we didn't get Donnie Katz and Simcha Halpert 3 years before. Those two guys, when we recruited them, they didn't just jump on board to come to school and play for us. They jumped on board with the same kind of crazy goals that I had. And sometimes you have to kind of straddle the line between, ballsy and stupid or crazy. And we had, my goals have always been there, not just to win the Skyline Conference Championship, but to compete for a national championship. And it was something I said in an interview on the D3 podcast. I think literally my first year coaching, when we started off 9-3 and, had a rough second half, But we got a good start, and because I was a new coach, I ended up on this podcast, and they're asking me what my goals are at Yeshiva, and I remember telling them it was to win the Skyline and to compete for a national championship. And the host kind of gave a little bit of a chuckle, and I saved it and I sent it to him again, about a year ago, and
everything's on video now, Coach. You can always
exactly. But stuff like that, then gives you a little bit of extra motivation. But I remember when I recruited Donnie and Simcha, and I kind of told them what my goals are, and they didn't kind of give you that look of, yeah, that would be nice. I just kind of want to play ball, but it was like, hey, yeah, we're in. We want to do that.
And these are both out of town recruits, right? These are not New York or New Jersey.
Yeah, LA and Baltimore, and then they came on and they came on campus and they approached it that way, and they practiced that way. And even as sophomores already, they were leading that way. So they kind of had that effect on everybody else. So the guys would see that I believed in it and that I was pushing for it. And then they would see that, Simcha and Donnie do, and then they kind of jump on board.
So they were probably,
once we started rolling with that, then that would allowed us to kind of bring in a Gabriel Leifer.
Right. So they were the program changers. Like so that's interesting. So they really paved the way for the others. Like, you got this, and I didn't know their careers. I only saw them play at YU. Simcha Halpert actually reminds me of Klay Thompson. I mean, the way he shoots, like when he shoots, you think it's going in. He gets the ball. He doesn't dribble. I mean, just from seeing him play last year, and he's playing professionally now in Israel, I believe, right?
He is, yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So those two recruits really helped open the floodgates, so to speak, for that type of athlete, that type of player, leader. I know Donnie Katz was a big leader of yours. So he brings those players in. And then the one interesting thing that you also have to compete with is a lot of these kids go for their gap year to a year in Israel. Like, I know Gabriel Leifer, right? Another DRS. We've had him on our tournaments. I mean, superstar, super nice kid, nice, unbelievable family, as you mentioned about families. I mean, someone we know from here in Woodmere. So he comes and he has to go to Israel. So then you have to wait. Not only you get him to agree to come to YU, then he goes to Israel, and then you got to hope he doesn't get too from. Like, how does that work? Because he may bypass OIU or
eat
I made a decision when I started at YU. I don't compete with the base medrash. I don't compete with Israel.
That's probably why you've had so much success, Ali.
Guys can do what they want. We had a first team all conference player from Frisch, Judah Cohn, who you probably remember.
Yeah, sure.
He used to come to the game before the game in his black hat, white shirt, go into the locker room, change like Superman into his uniform, drop 22 points, go right back to the locker room, shower, put on his white shirt, black hat, go back to the base medrash. And he decided after 2 years as a sophomore, when he was first team all conference, had 2 more years of eligibility, he decided he wanted to go, learn in yeshiva full time.
So one recruiting job you couldn't win, I guess.
I didn't even try.
Can't beat God.
Didn't even try.
Right.
Can't beat God.
Hashem, okay. There is someone who has higher power.
I always encourage you guys, if Israel is something they want to do after high school, do it. We'll still be here. I mean, we get a guy a year later, he doesn't lose eligibility. It's not like it hurts us that much.
Right.
It's
but it may just change their career path. They may be like,
basketball. It potentially could, but it's it also can give us a guy who's a year more mature and who maybe was working out and getting older and getting better also.
Right. So let me ask you this. Here's a question. So Gabriel Leifer was a superstar, as we said. What's changed? He comes to college and he's still 6'5" and tremendous footwork. Not the most athletic player in the world, right? He's not like wowing you. He's just sound of his footwork is great. His mind is game. He's got the game. But he all of a sudden develops, and I think this is a lot of part of your offense. He's become a 3-point shooter. So is that something that you coming in, you're playing for YU? It doesn't matter if you're 7 feet tall, like kind of how the NBA and college is now. Like, you got to be able to shoot because these kids are all running your motion offense, and it seems like they can all hit 3-pointers now.
I think a lot more kids can shoot it in high school than we know about. I think sometimes it's a product of either a parent or a coach who decides that because you're bigger that you belong in a certain spot on the court.
Right.
I remember when Cody played for me as an 11th grader at North Shore, Cody Cohn, he had come in and nobody knew he could shoot the ball because we had only seen him in the post in JV because he was just
he could shoot.
Everybody.
Jay, remember
he really shoot, and I remember. I used to have to put him on the bench occasionally if he wasn't taking shots from 3 because kid was shooting over 40% from 3. There was no reason for him not to be taking open shots.
Right.
I remember championship game we played at YU. Actually, the championship game that year, he hit 2 threes in that game. And I think a lot of guys that you don't realize can shoot. Gabe's one of them for sure. I remember from high school a couple times he did take shots. He had good touch. And I remember telling him when we were recruiting him, when it comes to us, he's going to be shooting a lot more than he did in high school.
Right. Who doesn't want to shoot the 3-pointers now? I mean, now it's not even like so great to hit a 3-pointer. You got to shoot a 3 and then spin around and not see it go in. Like that's the level of the shooter that we've.
A lot of things. Listen, the game in general has changed, right? You have all these professionally, you have Europeans coming to the NBA at 7 feet tall and they're shooting 3-pointers all day. Dirk Nowitzki was one of the early super tall guys, was just shooting the ball from everywhere on the court, and that what happens in the NBA trickles down, right? So part of it is, however old you are, it doesn't matter. You're just going to be shooting because that guy does it, right? That's part of it. The other thing is, Jews are not notoriously athletically gifted, or vertically gifted.
Until Coach Steinmetz found them.
Right. Ours are.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing, and it's not even athletically; it's vertically, right? You're playing against teams that probably have an average height of 5.5 inches taller than your team.
Well, not anymore. They're pretty tall.
Well, right, but Jews have grown, right? Like when we were growing up, do you remember, a dozen guys 6'3", 6'4", and now not every high school, but Frisch runs out a team. Nobody. We saw him in the tournament last year. I think the entire starting 5 was like 6'2" and up.
Yeah,
and that's a change. True. So what that means is that when you're growing up and you're 10, 11, 12, and you're really forming your game, you're not just going to be pigeonholed as a center because you're a couple inches taller than everybody. The median height has grown. So, guys,
you're
get
still short,
the natural position. I am 5'10". Okay.
Coach, if you're 5'10", does that mean, is there any chance you're really 5'10" or you're at least 5'9" or lower? I mean, what do you think as a 6'2" guy yourself? What do you think?
I don't think 5'10" exists on the actual.
I'm gonna have to on one of these episodes. I'm gonna
if you're really 5'10", you say you're 6 feet. There's no way.
I'm gonna go get my measuring tape, and we're gonna do this live on air. One episode.
We will.
We're gonna. Okay. I got it. I'm 5'10".
All right. Well, we'll get back to your height. So, okay. So you bring this team in. You said that first year you were 9-3, and then you had the second half was a little roller coaster there, and you didn't get your championship. Then is it the next year that you get the first Skyline championship?
No, I think it was our third season. Maybe it was fourth season even.
Right, and
third, fourth season.
So many championships.
Wow.
It's hard for you to keep track of. I mean, it's difficult. Just look at your rings. They don't show you which team is what. Your chai. What do you get for a Jewish championship? A chai? You get something or not?
No, we got rings.
Ah, there you go.
I don't know where I put it, but we got rings.
Diamond.
Spoken like a multiple champion, right? I don't know. I can't keep them all. So let me.
I'm not a big trophy ring guy.
Right. It's all in there. All in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
You know exactly where you won and by how much. So you get that Skyline championship, and that's when I think people started the public, especially the Jewish public, started like following. Right. I remember like, oh, all of a sudden this team is good. I mean, they have this team. There's these players, and they're fun to watch. I mean. We're sitting there. I mean, I'm sitting there on my phone, on my iPad. I'm watching these games, and I'm like, look at this offense. These kids are like, they're just constant motion. They're finding open plays. They're getting backdoors, and you win those championships. And then you get a player like Ryan Terrell. So he's been in your program for 2. Well, this is his third year, right? He's already been.
This now is his third year,
right?
Yeah.
So you get him. You probably athletically have never seen a player like that. I mean, I remember him in high school. There was people sending videos of him doing like 360 dunks in layup lines. Like, it was like, things that you just don't see. So you get him, and that's got to be like, how do you coach a player like that? Because he's just, this player that you could probably do a million things with. And how do you get him to play a team game, within your system and really still be the superstar that he is?
So here's the great thing about this kid, right? And our world in general. When he committed to come to us, I can't tell you how many people called me or came over to me to tell me, you really think he's going to be that good at Yeshiva? You really think he's going to be like that good in college? I mean, come on. It's like, like I get it. In high school, he's pretty good. And, but, he didn't win Sarachek or this and that. I remember looking at people like, that is going to be the best player who'd ever played at our school. No, come on. He's the hardest working kid you ever saw. He is the easiest kid I've ever had to coach, certainly on a superstar level. He's just so completely selfless. Like the kid could not care less about his stats, anything to do with like personal goals or anything like that. He just wants to win. He always wants to take the other team's best guy. He'll take charges in practice, which doesn't happen very often. So
people don't take him in games, take him in practice.
He'll take him in games too, but he is the perfect personality.
He's a dream. He's a dream. It sounds like.
Yeah, he's easy. He's great.
Right. So
really
so
is.
you have
and we have a lot of guys with that personality. He just happens to have the athletic ability and the talent to go with it.
That actually brings me to another question. So how do you take, and and again, just popping in my head here. So you're taking these kids like a Judah Oppenheimer, I know, who's on your team now, like these kids who are the superstars of the superstars of their team. You know, they're the number one player. They're playing 40, 32 minutes, whatever the minutes of their high schools are a game. They're playing every moment. And now you're taking this superstar, and this isn't the NBA. You know, when just to make it to the NBA, you're like, okay, I'm a 12th man of the bench, whatever it is. You're bringing a kid in. You got to tell him, you may have to sit 3 years behind a Ryan Terrell, behind a Simcha Halpert, or player Gabriel Leifer. So how do you get that kid to commit to the practice? Because I think you practice 5 days a week at 5 a.m. Or I mean, I know it's some insane hour. These kids
6 days, yeah,
6 days a week. So how do you get that kid to really buy into that commitment to go to school in the double curriculum for most everyone, and to have that, that internal drive to compete, and, hopefully that he gets a chance, down the road as he, gets to becomes an upperclassman?
Yeah, I mean, we don't. We honestly, it's got to be inside that player. It's just the way it is. We're dead honest with guys. I always tell people you could be sitting on the bench for the first 5-6 games of the year, and suddenly show something in practice that gets you a couple minutes, and all of a sudden you're playing a ton. It could happen that way. I mean, it happened to Tyler Holt. Tyler spent, I think his sophomore year, spent the first 5 games on the bench. Played a little bit of kind of scrub time at the end of a couple of games. And we were watching him in practice one day, and he just was outworking guys and bringing a certain energy. And I remember returning to one of my assistant coaches at the time and saying, hey, we get into a tough spot in the game. We got to kind of give this kid 2 minutes and see if he can kind of change the energy. Which,
so hold on,
of course, then
teaching point
game.
For all you kids out there, and we assume there's a lot of adults and a lot of kids watching this. So coaches are watching during practice. I mean, I guess that's where you are seeing, all of a sudden you can really elevate your game, and out of nowhere, like and these are superstar players at your program who, for all their respective teams. So practice really is an opportunity for them to make their mark and to really put themselves in front of you.
Tyler did not play a meaningful minute for the first 5 or 6 games of the year. Started in the conference championship game and started in the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
So there's no doubt things can change, but at the same time, it doesn't happen for everybody. I mean, that's kind of a rare story. We'll tell guys sometimes when, look, there's guys that we recruit, obviously, and then there's guys who kind of want to come here and call us and walk on. We're very honest with guys when that's the case, and we'll tell them, hey, kind of look at what our roster is. One of the things I love to do now is, because you get emails pretty much every day now from every kid who plays in any Jewish school across the country with video on how he's scoring 15 or 20 points a game and can definitely help us and play for YU.
And by the same tells me you're watching every one of those videos.
Not everyone, but most of them I do, or I'll sometimes I'll ask an assistant coach to if it's, if it doesn't look like it'll be entertaining. But I like to send video back and say, hey, before you decide to get serious about this, watch us play, see if you think you're our level.
Right.
Very often we don't hear from them again after that, because I think people, now I think they do, but maybe 2 years ago people didn't necessarily understand the level of the guys that are playing for us right now. And when we have guys who are interested and we're filling up roster spots, if we have extra walk-on spots and guys who want to be there, we'll tell them, look at our roster, look at who's here, look who's coming back. These are guys that you are going to be starting off behind. If you're able to climb past them, great, more power to you. You'll have every practice the entire year to kind of compete and go after it. But, you need to recognize from a realistic standpoint, if you're joining up, there's a possibility that, as much as you were the man in high school, you might be cleaning jerseys after the game.
For 20-year-old, 21-year-old to really.
Hold on. So this is important. So your team right now, without naming names, how many players are walk-ons versus players that you actually went out and recruited?
probably half and half.
Wow,
So-
that's a lot. It's a lot.
I would
of
say
kids
it's probably it might maybe a few more recruits. I mean, I would say we probably, because some of the guys are young, so I would say we probably if we have 18 guys on the roster, probably 11 or 12 of them are recruits.
Wow.
And of the guys that walked on, I mean, were these guys that you were just, wow, didn't know that guy was out there? I mean, is it that kind of situation, or somebody that worked real hard their year in Israel, came back and was
It was like that in the beginning. Like the first couple of years, we'd have tryouts, and probably still will, because you just never know who's going to walk into the gym. We would have tryouts, and most of the time we knew beforehand who we thought was going to end up kind of filling out the roster. We were always surprised in the tryouts by one or two guys that we felt we had to put on and give a shot as a walk on. Now it's a little bit easier before we go. I mean, there's so much interest beforehand that we hear from so many guys that the conversation always starts with, well, if they're not a recruit, the conversation kind of starts with, if you're coming to YU anyway, then we'll see what kind of space we have. But if you're coming here just to play ball, you might need to look somewhere else, because I don't know for sure that we're going to be able to fit you in.
Yeah. By the way,
we try to be honest with guys.
Right, which is actually incredible, because I saw before your season started here, I looked at the roster and I was like, wow. Like, I know the kid Zach Muller from Shalhevet was, he won Sarachek a couple of years, was a phenomenal player. Judah Oppenheimer, and I think the kid from Baltimore, Landau, right? There was all these kids. I was like, wow, these were superstar players. And I mean, I just look at who's ahead of them and I'm like, I don't know if they're going to play. And it's amazing to think of that mentality and that dedication. That's, kudos to those kids to really have that wherewithal to be like, you know what, I'm going to elevate my game. I'm going to impress my coach, or I'm going to have, bet on myself to have that ability to one day play. So that's
well,
really...
I will tell you, with this year's roster is certainly by far the deepest we've ever had. I would actually tell you, I could probably take, I don't think we have what I would call it a bottom five. I don't think we have a bottom five. I think we literally have 17 or 18 guys.
Jay's familiar with the bottom five.
Yes.
Go on. I'm sorry.
We have 17 or 18 guys who can legit compete and play college basketball. There's no doubt. It's not like we have guys who are practice player, that kind of level. All our guys can compete and play. I'd be confident going into almost any game that we would play with, any five guys on our roster this year, and be able to go and compete and win games.
Well, so that confidence, that's got to be, like you said, it trickles down to your players. So let's take it. We're going. So you win your championship. You win your Skyline championship. You win last year pretty easily. I mean, I think, first of all, you started off the season. You played a powerhouse in California. You lost, and then you decided you didn't like doing that. The whole loss thing was like enough. Yeah, did it once in the West Coast. You haven't lost, and we said 31 games in a row. So you run the table with your conference. You're out of conference games. You get to the Skyline. You're the favorite. I mean, we're now all of a sudden, we're on board. All us Jews, we're like, even non-Jews. I know Bruce Beck and NBC, I believe, had picked up some of your story. We're all on board.
Bruce is a Yid.
He's a Yid.
Yeah.
So was he Becker back in the day, or?
That I don't
little
know.
Nuts. I've spent some time with Bruce. He's an interesting character.
He did lane some of his Haftorah for us at practice.
Wow. That's like, everyone's
That's
like,
very,
people want to show off their
very,
tattoos.
That is
in the tip-off world, they
Bruce
want
Beck.
to show off their laning. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
That is such a Bruce Beck thing to do, by the way.
Look at Jay pretending he knows his celebrities. I remember when I had Bruce over for my Seder, he wasn't eating the matzah the proper way. Whatever. Okay. So
Add 4 cups of wine, though.
Right, exactly. So you win 31 in a row. You win the Skyline Championship. So now we're invested, right? As fans, we're watching. I mean, you don't take me as a guy who feels the pressure. You kind of like you said, you invite the pressure, right? So you're like, okay, guys, great, we won the Skyline, but that's not our goal. Our goal is the championship, and we're going to the tournament. You play your first game, I believe. Well, Jay and I remember it was a Friday in Pennsylvania, was it?
Right. Baltimore.
Okay. So I knew it was in the East somewhere. So you go and you play it in we're watching this, and this is right when I believe COVID had started, right? There were no fans. This was like right at the it was in the beginning of March. So it was mid-March. It was at that time.
We were the first sporting event in the US to not have fans because of COVID.
Really? So that I remember it was a Friday, right? It was a Friday.
Got us on ESPN.
It was on ESPN, or
that's what got us on ESPN.
Oh, wow. That's unbelievable. So you play that game, no fans. So that's a whole nother show. Like how do these kids, and these athletes do this? They just change from packed gyms, or the whole atmosphere and the what do you call it, the energy of the gym. So you're playing and you beat a team who's a favorite. They're ranked, they're seated higher. And Jay and I are watching the game because we have nothing better to do. And all of a sudden you score 100 points, and they weren't ready for you guys to score 100 points. It went to 2. Like, I don't know if in the gym maybe they had 100, but the scoreboard went back to 2. So it looked like you were down by like 30 points.
Like bootleg. It's
right.
unbelievable.
Like, what is this live stream? Like, so you beat them by like 30 points. So now you're feeling good. This whole Jewish nation is like, yeah, YU. We all went to YU. We all pretended.
Jews are by nature skeptics. Okay.
We're bandwagoners.
I am sure you get. I am sure you get the brunt of the skeptics all the time. Oh, really? You can compete? Oh, you sure? You sure you can play with these guys? Yeah, but they're so big. Oh, but they're so strong. Are you? I don't know. You've never done it before. Why?
I get that, and I get the coaching advice all the time.
Oh, of course.
We were what, 27-1, I think, going into the. Oh no, it was already after we won the first 2 rounds. So we're 29-1, and we're heading.
You're still getting those WhatsApps like
play Randolph Macon. No, I literally got 10 emails from people with advice on how to handle Randolph Macon.
Listen, everyone is an expert when they're sitting on their couch or they're watching the game. That's how it is. So you go. So now you're in the Sweet 16. So now these kids are like, wow, this dream you had is a reality. You can see it. You got to win. What is it? 4 more games, right? To get to, is it 4 more games? I believe, right? 4 more games. And right now you're a top 15 team in the country, or close there, or maybe even higher. And you're headed to, where were you headed for your Sweet 16? I know you were like, where was that?
Virginia.
We were going to Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah. See, Ari, I remember all the facts, and you just make them up and get them
right.
wrong.
Right. I get my states wrong. Other than that, I remember which player wears what number and what high school he went to.
Except last week when I said Cody Cohen hit that shot from half court, and he was
exactly
had a toe on the 3-point line. But that's irrelevant.
Yeah, I said as the legend grows, everything gets bigger and better. So you're on a bus right now in. Did you have an inkling already? Did you know? And because this whole COVID thing was brand new, did you like have an idea like we may not play this game, or this is like something you're on that bus and these kids are ready to the moment of their life? How to take us through that, the mindset for you finding out, processing that yourself, because you're not someone who's 75 years old who's been doing this for 30 years, and it's like you have this whole thing that you have this team
and nobody's done COVID before.
Right, exactly. So you process what's going on. Tell us how that worked, how you told your players, how they reacted in that whole situation it took place.
So I was driving down myself. The guys were all on the bus. Pretty much knew it was coming. It was just kind of a question of whether they were going to make the announcement before the weekend started. And we were the first game because we were playing early because of Shabbos. We were playing Friday afternoon. So we were driving down Thursday, I guess, like mid-afternoon or early afternoon. And it was really just a question of whether they were going to hold off another 24 hours to make the announcement and cancel, and we would be able to get one more game in, or if it was going to, come sooner. I mean, I was sitting in a restaurant the night before, and the
Central Park
TVs were on. No, happened to be Doma, but the TVs were on, and they were canceling they had just canceled the NBA. Because I think it was Rudy Gobert who had tested positive first.
I remember that game. That was weird.
Yeah, and then suddenly NHL was gone, and then Major League Baseball just announced that they were going to delay.
You're like, but Division III is going to hang on. It's not going to hit us.
Yeah, and then you wake up in the morning and the Big East cancels their tournament, and the ACC cancels their tournament, and some of the big schools like Duke and other schools are starting to pull out.
Right.
And here's Yeshiva University, getting on the highway heading down to Virginia, and I'm kind of sitting in the car with my Twitter feed, sitting on the phone, waiting, like refreshing, waiting for the waiting for the press release to come out, and of course 6.5 hours pass on the drive. And I pull into the park, or 7 hours. I pull into the parking lot at the hotel, and as I pull into the parking lot, it got canceled.
So you were there before the team? You arrived to the hotel.
I was there. Yeah, they were about 25 minutes behind me. But I was driving down there the whole way, saying, "Please, just if you're canceling, just do it right away. Do it now. Let me just turn around. I'll go back to work. I don't have to drive 7 hours both ways." But that's not how it works.
Why make it easy?
Why you jet wasn't fueled up for that trip? I guess.
It was already apparently COVID in 2020, so it wasn't going to exactly go well. So then our guys got down there. We obviously they already knew because they all have phones, but we talked about it. We ended up staying at the hotel, getting dinner, and some guys just actually went home from there and flew home because school was closed, and the rest of the guys went back on the bus. It was disappointing.
Also, look, some of your players' careers were over, right? I mean, that was it.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, exactly right. Some of them, and it ended on such a high note, and then such a kind of, it was just a very, very weird feeling. It wasn't like a loss, where you're kind of dealing with the disappointment.
It's like we talked about last week. There was no closure.
So there was no like disappointment wasn't in the room.
I mean, it's disappointing that you don't get to play, but it's more like, I don't even know how to describe it. There's not that upset feeling of like, oh, we didn't play our best, or we could have done better, or we just got beat by a better team. Or there was none of that. There was no celebration of a championship either. Like usually your season ends in one of two ways. Three. Either you stink and you don't make the playoffs, right? So that's one way. We try to avoid that one every year. Or you've made the playoffs at this point, your postseason, and you're one game and done. So either you're having the disappointment of a loss to end your season, and you're kind of coping and dealing with that, or you have this exhilaration of having won a championship, which only happens to one team, obviously, every year. Right. It's a totally different kind of an experience. This was like neither. This was like just emptiness and like blankness. It was just
right.
Weird. I will tell you, as you may or may not know, I direct John Rothstein's show, and when the tournament got canceled, we had a live episode. That show was not at the time live. It's the first one we ever did live, 3 hours long, and we had every Division I coach, and it was like an in memoriam, like this. It was like a funeral. It was like we were live streaming a funeral. I mean, the loss of this tournament was such, and this is Division I, obviously, that we're talking about. Right. But I mean, that doesn't matter. It's I think it's
right. I think that also has to do because you take sports away from people. Like sports don't stop. I think that was the reality of the world. Like this is something serious. COVID is like it's shutting down the NBA, it's shutting down March Madness. It's closing stadiums. Like wow.
I mean, the backside of that was when sports came back. And people were like in their DraftKings sports book betting on like Taiwanese darts, and like
that competition.
This is like without exaggeration.
I watched the axe throwing championship.
You needed that level.
I watched cornhole. Right? There was cornhole on ESPN 1. And I was watching that. And the way they had these sets, these like magnificent sets for cornhole.
By the way, once COVID started, I honestly, my television, I didn't put it on until like 5 months later. Like I did not put my television on. Everything was depressing on the news. There was no sports. It was nothing. So, right. You had that shut down to.
You heard of Netflix? You might want to get,
I maybe use that, but whatever. So you have this.
Jay, you could tell your boy, John Rothstein, that his tweet the other day didn't hit our fan base very well when he was listing out all the current top winning streaks in college basketball, and he had I think it was Gonzaga at 24, and then kind of went down the list of D1 schools after that,
I will tell you,
he got about 30 responses on his comment list.
I will tell you that will be addressed because he and I talk about your program all the time. So
he sounds like a kid.
Tell him to give us some love.
Ari, you're not always on top of things, but that was a very good deduction there. That Rothstein is in fact a member of the. He's a member of the tip-off club, as you like to say.
Just wanted to make sure. So the tip-off.
Tell him he can at me whenever he wants.
Okay. Right. There it is.
There it is.
We're ready for his love.
I'm clipping it. By the way, he just followed me on Instagram today, like. Coincidentally, so we're gonna have a little chat.
Oh, you're gonna let him know. So okay,
now, hold on, Ari. This has to be asked before we go any further. Sure. And I'm sure you've been asked this before. I don't know publicly or not.
His haircut or something else. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Please.
That's my favorite part about walking into the Hank gym and seeing all the pictures. It was my only championship with hair.
So
you won one without, one with. That's all right. That's impressive.
Here's the big question: if not for this pandemic, do you win the championship last year?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, who's going to prove him otherwise? I mean, right? With the confidence that Elliot coaches with?
Meaning we know that you scout. I mean, listen, you play every game for the game, but you had to look ahead. You had to look at the other. There were 15 teams left, but you couldn't have played them all.
I'll tell you, there obviously some very, very good teams that were left over. We were going to go play the number one defensive team in the country, which was Randolph-Macon. They're excellent. They're very well coached. I got nothing negative I could say about them. We felt very good about that game and the matchup for us. We did. We felt very, very confident and comfortable going in. What would have happened going into their gym playing that game?
Oh,
no
you
idea.
At people's gyms there. It's not like a
in that round you do. The following week, we would have gone to a neutral court in Indianapolis for the Elite Eight. Who the matchup would have been obviously could have been either of two teams. The way we like to approach games, when we would scout a team, we play in the 80s and 90s in terms of scores. Most teams don't. The way we would approach games with scouting very often is we'll look at a game and look at a team and say, hey, can they play in the 80s and 90s with us? Most of the time, the answer is no. Especially the way we defended last year, because we were one of the better defensive teams in the country last year. People don't realize that because we were a top offensive team.
When you're scoring 100 points a game, people aren't focusing on your defense.
That's exactly right. So, it was that's kind of how we approached games. And there were very few teams that we would look at and say, hey, they can get into the 80s and 90s with us. There were a couple of teams still left. One of them was Mount Union. Another one I think was maybe either St. Thomas or St. John's. I don't remember. That could. And it would have been interesting to kind of see those matchups. But, again, we would have had to survive playing the number one defensive team in the country first, which was Macon. We had played I think WPI, who we played in that first game, was the top 5 defensive team in the country. So, that
put 100 spot on them.
Right. So we knew we were able to score against teams that, that defended. It's a different, again, facing our offense is very, very different. It's a different look. It's a different kind of execution. And it's very polar opposite to what most teams are seeing and used to. So is your college coaching different than your, well, obviously as you gotten more experience, but the way you coached in high school and the way you coach in college, I assume changes because of the caliber of player you have, or your system you have a system and you like to play, your players have to play that system? So, I mean, I've certainly evolved as a coach and I try to learn every year a little bit more about what I'm doing and try to get better so that I can give my guys, better opportunity to compete and to grow and to win. But I've changed what I do in terms of how we run our stuff. I went from being a kind of a coach in high school who was probably calling plays and trying whatever, whatever the popular NCAA team was running that year. So if Calipari and Derrick Rose were running dribble drive at Memphis and doing well, then I was trying to play the dribble drive at North Shore. And I think when I got here at Yeshiva and I started to learn about the motion offense and to study it and to see how it can kind of fit into the personnel that we were going to be bringing in each year, and the fact that it's so unique and so different in terms of preparation for every other team that has to play us. The joke we get all the time from other coaches is, hey, we spend 99% of the practices and games telling guys how to guard the guy with the ball. And then we play Yeshiva and we have to turn around and say, hey, remember everything we taught you about how to guard the ball? Forget all that. Now focus on everybody else who doesn't have the ball.
Which brings me to a perfect point. So did you draw up the play? I mean, you may have seen this on a video or two, the dunk, the alley-oop from Leifer to Ofek. I mean, was that a play you drew up, or is that just an athlete and a superstar just saying, eye contact, we see something in defense and they just did it themselves?
Yeah, no, that we don't have any call plays. we literally do not have a single call play.
Really? So it's all
it's all reads, it's all basketball IQ. We teach our guys principles, spacing. We'll focus on certain fundamentals in practice in terms of screening and how to read a defensive player off of the screen, how to cut properly, how to open up or roll off the screen. We'll teach them spacing. We'll teach them certain concepts that where we want our screens coming from, who we want our screener to be on the, based on where they are positioned on the court. And then we want our guys to kind of execute and be creative and be ball players. We don't want robots.
Right.
Yeah,
So
listen,
actually, that actually brings me to your coaching style. It's funny, and I guess you just answered. So if you watch yourself, I mean, you're not watching yourself, but we're watching your team and you're coaching. You're sitting on the bench most of the time. You're like very, very calm, cool, and collected. It's almost like you said, like you've done all your coaching and practice already. And if these play, and like you said, you don't call plays now, which I never actually I didn't know. If these players don't know what to do, then there's something wrong with what you're doing in practice, because you're sitting on the bench and they're running their offense, which is, testament to you that they're able to execute, your vision that you have for them, which is, most of the time you see coaches, they're rah, they're yelling, they're barking out different calls on defense and plays and offense. And, you're doing all that in practice to get them ready for that moment in the game.
Yeah, the way I look at it is I have the best seat in the house. I get to watch a game. I get to sit there and watch those guys play and compete. We'll occasionally be able to, guide them or direct them. Certainly handle substitutions and matchups and stuff like that. But once our scout's done and we're giving them, what we want in terms of how to handle the other team's personnel, the rest of it is just kind of being able to watch them and correct little things. So if we feel like our screens are getting too close to the lane line as opposed to spacing out to the 3-point line, that's something we might try to correct in game and let our guys know. But it's it's usually a quick conversation.
Right. So
we don't call out timeouts, and we don't spend a lot of time in timeouts really talking about much. If we see something, we say it, and then we move on, and we allow our guys to kind of make those corrections.
Right.
I think what's interesting.
Amazing.
I think what's interesting about your coaching style, and I have the benefit of getting to work a lot with Slam Magazine and doing games for them. And
by the way, what's a magazine? Is that something that people
it's Facebook and Instagram nowadays.
Got it. Yeah, go on.
But and because of the advancements in social media and the fact that most of the players that go to the NBA spend 6 minutes in college, right? It's one and done. High school basketball has become huge. These guys, your top players who end up, like Cole Anthony had like an absurd social media following when he was when he was in high school, because people are interested in it. And something like Slam Magazine, which was an NBA institution when we were growing up, essentially spends most of their coverage now. First of all, yes, online, not in a magazine, but covering high school players, because that's what's going on. So everybody knows these players in high school. And, I think, 15 years ago, it used to be, the NBA is a one-on-one game and college is the team game. It's when the ball moves, it's when everyone plays as a team. But that's kind of changed too, with the fact that now high school basketball is played completely one-on-one. I've been to some, incredible showcase games, and, you see a pass, maybe one pass, and then it's a pass and a dunk, pass and a dunk, pass and a dunk. That's how these high school showcase games are played. And the top players, they're not just playing for their school anymore, right? It's AAU, it's this showcase, right. It's the Nike tournament, the Adidas tournament, whatever it is. You have almost the benefit of having it completely different, because the traditional yeshiva guys, I mean, Gabe Leifer, I don't think had 100,000 followers on Instagram when he was in high school. I don't think anybody knew who he was. The exception are the guys.
I don't think Gabe Leifer's on Instagram.
By the way, he's not. He's not. I know that for a fact, because when we went to tag Cody Cohen, he used to be on Instagram. I went to type Gabe Leifer, and I was like, no, that's not Gabe Leifer. He's not.
But that's the advantage. These kids who are playing traditional yeshiva basketball. Well, listen, the disadvantage is they're not playing against the top high school talent. They're playing against other yeshivas. So it's the guys coming from the LAs and the Baltimores who actually in high school get experience against public schools. That's an advantage. But I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I think as they get further on in their playoffs, maybe. But give the Yeshiva League credit. It's a better league than 90% of the leagues that the other Jewish schools play in. You think so?
Yeah, I know so.
Because they're not playing the Division One.
They're playing in small school leagues, most of them. Now, if you're telling me, Eula and Shalhevet, as they start to move out of their, initial league into kind of, state playoffs and stuff like that, yeah, they're going to see some really good teams that have some D1 players. But most of these schools in Chicago and Houston and Florida and right. They're not playing in not that their leagues aren't good, but they're not any better than our yeshiva league.
And is that because a lot of the better players have moved over to play only AAU and they're not playing for their schools anymore?
It's it's that it's you know, it's something, sometimes it's just school size also. So a lot of leagues, a lot of the public school leagues and stuff are based on actual size of school. So unless you're in one of the big schools, you know, you're playing in a smaller school league that has just, you know, less, I guess, less high level players than the bigger schools do. And then you obviously have the kids who go and play for the IMGs or go to the, you know, Oak Hill,
the NBA high
those
school
places.
teams.
Exactly.
So, Coach, let me ask you a question. And this is, you know, we've been here a long time, and thank you so much for all your time. We really appreciate it. So, how do you get your team coming off of last season, where their season was cut short, to practicing 6 days a week with masks on, doing everything they're doing, hoping there's a season, maybe there's a season, then there is a season, but there's no tournament? Like, how do you keep them, you know, digested in the game and really focused on the program?
Digested in the game? What is that? What happens? The game eats them?
You want to digest?
Invested maybe?
Invested and I like to digest and invest. That's a kind of
it would be weird to be digested by a game. I've never seen that happen in you know, 100 years of basketball. And
tell us, Coach.
And also, you know, how is COVID in general playing, you know, a role in this season? Do you have to have extra players on the roster? What are the protocols like? I mean, what is the season doing to you guys?
So it is a lot to deal with. There's a lot of protocols. I mean, we had to start the year in pods. Then we practiced as a team. We actually had our first practice last week from the whole season, where we had our whole team there.
Wow.
But we are actually still practicing in pods. So we do have extra players. We probably have a few more than I would have generally had, but we're trying to keep guys kind of separate so that if there is a positive test, then we only lose, you know, half the team at a time, and we can take the other half and still compete. You know, it's they do practice in masks. They were testing 3 times a week. It's a lot. There's no doubt, you know, and then there's kind of like figuring out the math. If there's ever a point in time where we can take the risk and practice without pods and practice as a whole team and actually scrimmage. I mean, we didn't, you know, everyone watched us play Saturday night and Sunday, and, you know, the comment we got was we looked a little bit rusty, which is, I guess I'll take it.
You played 8 hours after you played. I mean, it's
considering we scored 98 and 94, I'll take the fact that we were rusty. That's fine.
Yeah, Ryan looked horrible. He only had 38 or something. I mean, Gabe Life for a triple double. I mean, yeah, tough.
But, you know, we had only scrimmaged, I think, maybe once or twice beforehand, full court at all, just because we've been trying to keep everybody in pods. So that was kind of our opportunity to, you know, go and run up and down the court a little bit and start to get used to playing games. So it definitely is a lot. And in terms of keeping the guys invested and digested, I think it's perspective. You know, like we talk about it all the time with our guys, and, you know, it's college basketball, so there's supposed to be some sort of a learning experience involved, and not just competition and winning. But I think it's important that they understand, you know, perspective of what's going on in the world, and, you know, people are struggling in terms of, you know, economically, and certainly in terms of health and socially, and there's so much going on out there, and we're lucky and grateful and thankful to our, you know, our athletic department and our administration at the university, that we have the opportunity to get on the court and practice every day.
Right.
And the fact that we get to play a game is almost like a bonus at this point. And it's just, you know, it's exciting, and we have to kind of appreciate every minute that we get out there, because number one, you don't know when it's going to end, which we saw from last year. And number two, there's just people dealing with so many more important, bigger things in life than whether or not they're going to play a basketball game.
Right.
And I think those things, when you have the perspective, it allows you to kind of stay focused on it when you're out there, and recognize that you can put everything into it when you're there.
So as we get ready to kind of wrap up here, a couple things left. Number one, and this too has to be asked, you know, you're the coach of Yeshiva. I mean, just the name in and of itself is a lot. You know, what is your responsibility almost to the Jewish people without, you know, trying to be dramatic here? I mean, what is that? What is the sort of the role that you have, and the position and the team? And I mean, how do you treat that?
So I think it's, you know, people talk about it sometimes as a burden, and I don't think it is a burden. I think you use the right word, responsibility. It's also opportunity. I think our guys are great spokespeople to the world for, you know, for what we kind of stand for, you know, for, you know, the kind of families and backgrounds they're from, and, you know, their ability to treat other people with respect, whether it's opponents, other coaches, referees, their own teammates. it's the opportunity to also show our own people, to be an example for our fans and to be an example for the families that come to games on how we act and how we conduct ourselves, both on the court and off the court. It is a tremendous responsibility. It's something that we discuss every year, but it's something that we're proud to take on. And I think we, when we recruit, it's one of the things we certainly keep in mind when we're talking to, kids and their families about whether or not they, would be a good fit for us, from a basketball perspective. They need to be a good fit for, kind of what our culture is also in terms of the university and the program.
You adhere to a higher authority. That's what it seems like. So like two last question for me, and then you mentioned recruiting. So I think there's this kid Jacob Steinmetz who was somewhat recruited to play in like Division I baseball. We'll get into him.
I lost my recruiting battle on that one.
Yeah. Well, Yeshiva University baseball, you're not the coach of that. I mean, you could elevate that program.
I would have had him play basketball.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's good at that. He's very good at that too. But one last question, and then we want to bring on Jacob for a few minutes to talk about him and his amazing story. Who is the best player you've ever coached against in the Yeshiva League?
Coached against?
Not who you coach. Coached against.
Oh, in the Yeshiva League.
Yeah, when you were a coach at Haker North Shore. You got to pick one. It can't be three. It's got to be one player.
No, that's fine. I can give you one. I'll tell you the toughest kid I probably coached against probably was Jojo Fallis. He played for, is it Valley Torah or Shalhevet, I think, right?
He was California before my time, so before I started recruiting.
Jojo and then Jojo went to play for Cornell afterwards. But he, in the second half of the game we were playing, we were up at halftime against them when I was with North Shore. And the second half went for like 22, even though he was obviously top of our scouting board and the guy we were focused on taking out, and he just kind of willed himself to 22 points and a win. If you want to go Yeshiva League, I think one of the tougher kids, maybe not the most talented, but one of the toughest kids I've coached against was probably Mikey Gandia, who played for Hafter.
Hafter kid, right.
Who for some reason, also, it's just one of those kids who just had a motor and like major heart when he played, and willed himself to wins over us that they probably didn't deserve.
So I was going to say you kind of got out of it by not giving us a Yeshiva leaguer. You kind of went.
I can go back. Like I said, I got both of you.
Right, you got both in. So we appreciate that. First of all, we also appreciate all this time. Again, thank you so much for giving us all this time. Is there room in your screen for Jacob to come in, or do you have to go? I
can give him the screen if you want.
Yeah, give him the screen. We want to bring him in. Yeah.
So as he comes in, I'll just flip this off here so they could switcheroo.
Put on their makeup.
So we're about to bring on Jacob Steinmetz, who is a Yeshiva basketball star, as he's getting the headphones on here. But Yeshiva League basketball was not the place where he was going to make his athletic fame.
Well, because he didn't want Division III. Division III is like, it's nice, but when you have a Division I.
Now, first of all, Jacob, before we get started, I don't know if you remember this, but I used to play catch with you all the time at your brother's games. When you were
Jacob, you don't got to be nice and pretend you remember that.
You were probably I don't know, 10, 11, whatever. Yeah.
Right, but I remember that.
Yeah, see,
right. Everyone wants to pretend that they're a part of your reason why you're getting.
I'm not taking any credit. I'm just telling them, and I remember, and I think you were about 11 or 12, and I remember, we were playing long toss. I was like, wow, this kid's pretty good. Turned out I was right.
But all right, so we'll forget about Jay taking credit for all of your success. Tell me about, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know, that's probably not listening to the show, but you have a Division I scholarship to Fordham University where you're going to go and play baseball, and I know your dreams and aspirations are even higher. God willing, you should make it as high as your achievements take you. But tell us about the sacrifice that you've made to really, spend all these summers. You didn't go to sleepaway camp a lot of times because you were playing baseball and you were really honing your skill. And the commitment, being an Orthodox Jew and not being able to play on Fridays and, going to tournaments and not being able to really do everything you wanted to do, and how you made that commitment of being a Jewish, athlete and role model, and your scholarship at Fordham, how has that been for you?
So it was a lot of Shabbos away in hotels in the middle of nowhere in either New Jersey or Pennsylvania, or we were in Maryland a couple of times with either my dad or my whole family would come sometimes. and then just walking to the field on Shabbos. I think we walked up to like 3.5 miles was the farthest for a game. So we've had like 10 o'clock games in the morning.
So then you
We have
couldn't
to be
pitch
there
because
at
you were
8:30.
exhausted. You were exhausted by the time you got there.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it would actually be a good warm up depending on when it is. But if there's a 10 o'clock game in the morning and we have to be there 8:30, we're leaving the hotel and waking up at 6:30 or 6:45.
And that wasn't for Minion. You woke up before for Minion, and then you.
We woke up.
Right.
We left some time for davening.
Right. Of course.
But, yeah, obviously. And
Right,
then,
also,
like you said, also, what was that?
No, I was gonna say, and also, like I'm saying, the summers and everything, the dedication you had to give and all to get where you are today.
Yeah, so I didn't go to sleepaway camp until my first time was going into 9th grade, I think. And I was able to go I actually had to go up late because we had a tournament like the week changeover day was. So I went up a little late and it was probably like 2.5 weeks only. And then I went the next year I was able to. But other than that, just missing, now that I went those 2 years, I kind of wish I went more, but obviously I wasn't able to because of baseball. But yeah, I feel like I definitely made the right choice in the end. So
yeah,
now give people an idea.
Parents.
Yeah, give people an idea because I happen to know the answer to this question, and I don't think people have a concept because, listen, I'm sure a lot of Jewish kids who are in After or Frisch or TABC, wherever they are, they're pretty good at whatever sport they're playing, and they're thinking, I'm going to play in college. Give us a sense of how many baseball games you played every year to basically get to this point. Like what did your life look like? What does it really mean to put in the time to end up, in an opportunity aside for just your God-given ability, obviously, but how much did you play to get to a point where, you're able to get a Division I college scholarship offer?
A lot. It's just, I feel like it's however much work you think you need to put in to get as good as you want to be, it's probably double that at least. It's just I don't even know. I've played summers where I've had up to 80 games, I think.
I don't think in my professional career. When I say professional career, I mean my life. Whew, yeah. 80 games. That's amazing.
Yeah. Ari's
right.
professional career.
That was going back to when I was like 11 or 12 even, where we would have tournaments and some Sundays we would end up being at the fields all day playing 4 games in the day. So wow. It was a lot, honestly.
First of all, how fast are you throwing these days?
I actually hit 94 last Friday.
Wow. Like from a mound, like 94, that's pretty fast. I mean, driving 50 is fast. Throwing a ball 94, that's pretty.
Ari, you think you could hit that?
No, not a chance. I mean, even if I put my bat out, I don't think it would hit it, especially with his curveball and all the movement he has. And it's probably, I mean, most kids don't grow up. Baseball is their number one sport. And I know firsthand you're a tremendous basketball player, excellent basketball player. So was baseball your first love, or was it basketball, or was it just you realize how good you could be at baseball, and that kind of drew together with your desire to play?
So at first it was probably basketball, just because with my dad being so involved with it, that's where I was leaning towards. But that was more when I was like 5, 6, like the younger ages. And then once I was 7, I started playing travel baseball a little bit. And then I was really on and off between baseball, basketball, which one I liked more. And then as I got older and got better at baseball, probably 11 or 12, I realized like, yes, this is a lot more fun because I'm much better at it. So I stuck with that.
Good choice.
How do you stop? How do you stop from burning out? Right. That's like a big thing with, youth sports, whether your parents push you too hard or it's just too much, or you want to play Call of Duty all night. Like, 80 games, like that's, yeah, I figured 80 games, like that's an insane number to play in the summer. How did you not burn out? I mean, why did you want to continue all the way up to this? What's been your drive?
So I mean, baseball in general, I haven't been pitching only my whole life. I started that when I was 14. So when I was 10 and 11 playing 80 games in the summer, when I'm standing at shortstop, it's really not that bad all game. you're just standing there, make a play every once in a while, go up to bat a couple times. That's pretty much it. So that's not too bad. It's also just now, like even now, it's just like knowing my body. Whenever I need a rest or if I need an extra day off, I'll just take an extra day off and then maybe move my workouts to a different day and stuff like that.
Right. So it sounds right. So you really know yourself. So we'll let you go in a minute too, because I think it is almost time for chakras. But talk about how, you were, a captain on your basketball team, a star player at Hafter. You are a star player at Hafter. How has this year been with no sports? This is your senior year. You were going to be, leading your team, and you had aspirations of, championships and no sports. And how does that feel as a senior, having that taken away? And, how have you adapted to that and, the missing of that opportunity?
Yeah, it definitely sucks. Just missing the tournaments, obviously in LA and Baltimore and Saturn, just hanging out with the team and spending good time with them. Everything's just different. You have to find more stuff to do at like over weekends and at nights instead of practices and games.
Call of Duty.
It's just less time to hang out with friends, really.
Right. So those missed
although it does create sometimes more times.
Right. So, I mean, it's a tremendous story. I mean, wish you the best of luck. And I just want to say personally, having coached you in JV, I mean, one of the most humble superstars you'll ever imagine. I mean, I remember actually during a practice once this was sophomore year, and you're like, Coach, I got to go outside for a sec. I got to take a phone call. I'm like, well, you can call your mom or dad later. What's the big deal? You're 10th grader. You're like, no. It's Wake Forest. They want to talk to me. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, take that phone call. So just
take the call.
This is a kid who could have played Division I in a lot of places. I mean, I know Fordham is obviously a reason to stay home and stay in the Jewish community and in the city, and to be able to experience everything like that. So congratulations on unbelievable, scholarship, a well-deserved earned scholarship. And, we wish you the best of luck in your future, and we know it's going to be bright, and we hope to see you with the Yankees one day, not the Mets, because we're both Yankee fans.
Yankees.
All right. So that's good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. Jay, I think, are we pretty much done?
Yeah, I think that's a wrap for episode 2 here. A huge thank you to Elliot. A huge thank you to Jacob for sitting up and listening to his father talk for the better part of of an hour and a half.
By the way, we could have gotten another hour and a half with Coach Steinmetz, just so you know. I think Coach had much more. He was like, I'm good. I got another 2 hours. This is no problem. So yes, thank you. I mean, and also
that's the heart of a lion. He's showing you. You made him wait. You made him wait till after midnight. So he's going to show you. No, I'll sit here till 4 a.m.
Yeah,
that's hard. That's hard. He's going to keep you up now.
Right. So we appreciate that. And don't forget all of our sponsors, Holy Schnitzel. Well, you rat him out there.
Yeah.
There,
Holy Schnitzel, who, I am so full. I don't know how I'm going to sleep now. Morton's. We got to talk about the Morton's thing. We'll come back to that. It's Central Perk. Maybe we'll get some food from them for next week. We'll see.
Sure.
Adam B. Kaufman, when you get yourself in legal trouble or,
non-legal trouble. Legal advice.
Yeah. Or you want Ari to put you in his will, you call him. And of course, the Ballers Basketball Academy. It's, the first road to YU basketball. But now that we have you guys here, so this is really cool what we're doing. Morton's is going to give away a basketball jersey.
Did Jacob just disappear?
That was actually pretty cool.
Oh,
he's back.
Wow.
This is a great magic trick. I don't know. This is loving this. But the rules are going to be, we're going to post it. So this is whenever this comes out, if you're watching this or listening to this, check Yeshiva League Pass Instagram where we are, and there will be rules.
And subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where
you'll have to subscribe to a couple things and click a couple things, but you could win a jersey from Morton's, which is pretty cool.
Right, NBA player jersey.
Yeah, or a Jacob Steinmetz Fordham jersey.
Well, NCAA, I don't know.
I made that up. It's not true. It's inaccurate.
Right. No.
But
Coach Steinmetz, you get a Coach Steinmetz autographed basketball, which is very valuable.
Autographed polo.
Right. So yes, thank you for you guys for joining in, and our audience out there. We hope you stayed with us this whole interview. And remember, if you have a story, a Jewish story of sports, perseverance, inspiration, triumph, reach out to us. Slide into those. What did we say? The DMs at
Slide into the DMs. Pass. Yeah.
Exactly. And we will bring your story to
so much more cringeworthy when you say it, Ari.
Exactly. So that's about it. Have a good night, and we will see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys.
Take care.
Thank you guys.